Nothing says welcome to the South like moonshine, and Palmetto Distillery in Anderson is doing its part to preserve the heritage of the homemade spirit cooked in a copper still and poured from a mason jar. The distillery in downtown Anderson, the first micro-distillery to produce legal moonshine in South Carolina, celebrates its 10th anniversary in 2021, having weathered the ups and downs of small business ownership and a worldwide pandemic. Palmetto Distillery owners Trey and Brian Boggs pride themselves on staying true to the recipe and customs of their ancestors. Every jar of moonshine is produced by hand using age-old recipes in a 100% copper still that is exactly like what the bootleggers use, only bigger.
The best way to learn from somebody to make anything is to learn from the bootlegger. Learn from the guy that's doing the work and just copy success. And they had a tried and true recipe. We just took what they were already doing and paid the taxes. But at the end of the day, we just copied the 100, 200-year-old theory of making moonshine. I mean, yes, it was made by the light of the moon, and people go, well, making moonshine, that doesn't seem right. You're not making it out in the woods. No, we're making it in the backyard of the courthouse. So let's do it opposite. Let's make it in the backyard of the courthouse versus out by the river.
Moonshine is made from a simple recipe using corn, sugar, yeast, and water. But cooking it is an art, and making moonshine is no exception.
Just like if you wanted to be a famous cook like Wolfgang, or you want to be Paula Deen or Martha Stewart, there's still an art to everything. You can get a recipe off online, but just because you can throw it in a bucket and put some fire to it doesn't necessarily make you a success story.
The success of Palmetto Distillery has come not only by perfecting the product, but also by preserving the history of South Carolina and the true story of moonshine making in the South. Housed in an 1890s era building on West Benson Street that was originally a livery, then the city's first armored car company, first taxi company, and first Greyhound bus depot, Palmetto Distillery displays remnants of 70 and 80-year-old stills bearing axe marks from the revenuers. And visitors can take a free tour to watch the distillation process as the mash heats in a 1,000-gallon pot, turns to vapor that travels through the thumper and worm, then turns to liquid as it hits cold water.
So the heat source, which we use propane. A lot of people use propane, the moonshiners did, because you wouldn't see the smoke. So that's why they could hide from the revenuers out in the woods.
The moonshine experience at Palmetto Distillery includes tastings, the occasional musician and special event, and a retail area full of moonshine, whiskey, special items, and t-shirts. Palmetto Distillery's classic White Lightning has been the consistent #1 seller over the past decade, with its blackberry and apple pie moonshine flavors and its Palmetto whiskey also ranking among the favorites. In celebration of its 10th anniversary, Palmetto Distillery recently released 4 new moonshine flavors: peach, bananas foster, watermelon, and salted caramel. Despite the company's growth and success, the coronavirus pandemic affected the distillery along with other retail and restaurant establishments. Like many other distilleries around the country, Palmetto Distillery began making hand sanitizer at the front end of the pandemic to assist with the worldwide shortage. The distillery sold to the public and large customers like the South Carolina Department of Transportation, Michelin, BMW, Prisma Health, and many others.
It kept us very busy. We were able to hire 12 full-time people through all that chaos, and for that I'm very thankful. We had people lined up like it was we were giving out money here at the front door.
Over the next decade, Boggs says the company will focus on selling closer to home for long-term sustained growth.
In the very beginning, we were the first one on the block, so it was just as fast as we could make it. It was people wanted us all over the country. We went across in 26 states, and we still shipped to Canada and over to Scotland. The retail part of it is really the small piece of pie. It's a good branding opportunity, but the distribution is really where the long-term growth is. Only focus on what we've got and focus on South Carolina and all the millions of people of tourism coming to us, and that has been the true story of doing less and making more. It's a lot more sustainable.
To reach more tourists, Palmetto Distillery opened a retail store at the Greenville-Spartanburg International Airport, where people from all over the world are exposed to the brands.
It's been very exciting to see people come from California. We get a lot of people overseas that fly in through GSP and see our retail store there. And, you may have never heard of Palmetto moonshine, but it's somewhere, somehow, you've heard the word moonshine.
The company has also formed a partnership with singer-songwriter Darius Rucker, known for taking a shot of Jim Beam backstage before performances. A friend gave Rucker a bottle of Palmetto Distillery's Palmetto whiskey with a distinctive South Carolina Palmetto tree label. Palmetto Distillery now produces and bottles Rucker's Cinnamon Pepper and Peach Mint whiskeys, which are sold under Rucker's backstage label. For Living Upstate, I'm Jamarcus Gaston.